Here we are with Leon Cooper, who is a manager at Accenture, which is a technology consulting firm. And he was also a Monash physics graduate.
That's right.
So one very interesting thing you said in your talk is that you didn't have to sell your skills in a sense. You approached a firm who valued skills that scientists and physicists have. So what would be the skills that students would need to emphasize if they want to go into industry?
I think a key thing with science graduates is the general nature of what we learn in science about how systems work and how you can measure a system and you can put things into a system and see what happens with it. In terms of physics, we work with a lot of physical systems, obviously, and when you're working in a business, there are a lot of physical elements. There's supply chains, there's products that are being developed, there's all of these things. And I think as a physicist, my value when I came into the business world was a lot around analysis, understanding how business systems worked, and then using that foundation of knowledge about the systemic aspect of science, going to then expand my skills into more managerial and leadership and management focused areas. So it was worth at least me starting doing what I did in analytics and then moving beyond into the broader areas of business, which I sort of started to enjoy.
You mentioned how, as a trained scientist, we all take scientific methods as granted because we think everybody understands. And you mentioned how it was really valuable for you to have the process of working on assignment, writing it up, and finishing a project, and that you saw relevance for that in your industry.
Yeah, so a lot of what we actually do in management consulting is helping to formulate a problem, because I think with our clients, they may know they have a problem, but they might not know what the size and shape of that problem is. So approaching things in business with the scientific method and hypothesis testing and looking at things that could be a cause, but we have to test it and that sort of thing. We're not going in and thinking that's this type of management problem, therefore we solve it in this way. We look at it as a scientist and say, here are the causes, here are the effects, and working out how we actually solve the challenge from a scientific point of view. And I think as scientists, training ourselves to look in that particular way, we can bring a lot of value to people who can just see a problem and not know how to start to solve it.
So there you go, students. So work on your assignments. And one more question.
Sure.
Do you have a trouble communicating scientific findings to people who are non-scientific trained? I know just in daily basis, just talking about statistics to people, it's quite hard because intuitively they think differently, and then trying to tell them that actually it's something different than what they think can be a bit challenging. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I think for people to develop as scientists when they go into a career of any sort, is to work out, especially for everything that they're doing in a scientific frame of mind, how that translates into what someone understands. I think as scientists, all of us are trying to bridge that gap between what we know in great detail to how we communicate that to someone who can actually use that information to make a decision. And in management, everything's about making a decision, not with certainty, but taking the outputs of something like scientific analysis or a hypothesis that we've tested and using that to make a decision. I think for people who are looking at applying science in a career, the most important thing to focus on is what is the essence of what I'm actually doing in detail, and how can I transfer that knowledge to someone who only needs to know maybe a little piece of it. So it's definitely a skill that needs to be learned. I think you can practice it quite well even in your assignments at university, getting to the very essence of what science you're doing and making that executive summary or an abstract or something that really helps when you go to communicate that research to scientists or non-scientists.
Great, well thank you very much.
You're welcome.